Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on managing your staff with Aero. I am Mark Cruz, one of the Aero developers at Cloud Consultancy, and together with me on the phone is Victoria Cameron, who's also one of the developers of Aero. So I'm going to do most of the talking for this. We're going to this presentation should be around a half an hour or so, and then we'll open it up for a few questions. So why don't we go ahead and get started. In today's webinar, we're going to primarily discuss managing your staff, which is going to be where you have the hat on, not doing the work, but where you're managing. And we're going to focus on the screen, manage work today. So, which is what we have before us. And we'll go ahead and dive. Right in with what work is due today and what work is getting done. So, why don't we start by going over on the screen, kind of familiarizing ourselves with what's on this screen. It's pretty straightforward. We have a list right off the bat of all the work that has not yet been completed, and so that's going to include everything that's either due today or was due before today. Noting that some of the dates, and actually you can see these dates are from a while ago because this is a demo account, and so I guess we weren't too diligent about getting our work done, or logged in as me here. I definitely wasn't, since I have 408 things either due today or from the past. So it's
this
showing.
Is actually, yeah, so from this activities due is actually, that's activities due across the company. Right, Mark?
Yes,
just...
because on this screen, we're managing, we're looking at managing all employees at the same time. So, and as you can see, when you look down the column of staff, that you can see that the staff is sorted here. As a matter of fact, just for yucks here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to filter by the staff. So you could see that we've just filtered by an individual staff member, or we could drive right in here and see and filter for all of Robert. And as we stand right now, we'll remove this filter, but as we stand right now, we can see that, that nothing is showing in the future. We can look into the future by changing our parameters a bit. So we'll look out and say the same, what's due in the past, and then before November 22nd. So you can see that it also filters those particular things. Well, let's go back to just today as we're managing. And again, here we can see what is the particular status here, and so whether it's in progress, deferred. So we can see what is deferred, and then this concept of deferred is that somebody started work on this particular task and then deferred it, and when they deferred it, they also put in a note as to the reason it was deferred. So you as the manager can see exactly what's going on with this particular activity.
So, and that is required that they actually put in the note in order to defer the task. So you don't have to, as the manager, you don't have to ask them why they didn't finish. You can see right from the screen.
Okay, so here, and by clicking, we can see what's in progress. So these are the things that would be going on specifically right now. Somebody's working on, so you can see. And one note that we wanted to make, we'll click to open up this, but is if you see something's in progress and you happen to open up that activity that you do not want to save, you want to make sure you just close it and you don't save it. Otherwise, there's a potential to overwrite something that the staff is working on. So now we've shown the number of counts, and then here we can just click, and again, it's modifying the filters. Okay, and so you can again use these filters up here to see your list. I'm going to try to see if we have anything in November here so we can zero down. So what I've done is I just typed in here, and it's going to show me everything that's happening in November. Over here, you can see what I'll do is quickly increase the grid so I can see a few more things. Now, I know I'm seeing everything. Here it's showing me all 49 records. And then if I filter, now I can see kind of drilling down what's going on. But if I'm looking at it and I want to see what was going on yesterday, I can go in here and I can type in the exact date. It'll then just filter for that date. So I can see the specific things that were going on yesterday in terms of that they weren't started.
And Mark, you can also filter that using these parameters up at the top. You can filter it for a particular staff member, right, or client. Or perhaps you even want to see just the things that are completed today.
Right, and
what did everybody get done yesterday? Did anybody finish anything yesterday? Right. You can run that report.
So, and these are, you can see that these filters are cumulative, and by making these changes up here, of course, it's affecting this filter view in this grid. So there are lots of different ways to give you to drill into, to see what's going on, to see the specific tasks of everything that's happening inside of your world. So from here, focusing on making sure that everybody's schedule is complete, full, as well as or the client's task, or the task getting completed. And in addition, this will also give you the benefit to know whether you need to jump in as a manager, whether you should be jumping in, seeing that this one wasn't done. It's not about just holding a big stick over the staff. It's more about giving them the tools to make sure that they're getting the job done. So now we're going to talk about drilling into, and I'm going to filter down so we see something here in November. We got a little bit less data to work with. But what I want to do is we're going to drill into, let's see, I believe that the best examples were Robert. Is that right, Victoria?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so let's look at, so I filtered this grid down. Now we're going to go to
so, in the instance where you'd want to do this is if one of the things that this dashboard lets you do in terms of managing the work is if you see a staff member that's overwhelmed or you have a staff member that's going on vacation, how can you reassign work to another staff member? And so that's kind of what Mark's going to do by.
So from this screen, we were able to just click Go To. It actually brings up the activity, information about specifically about the activity. So now we're going to, looking around here, I guess my screen's not big enough, so it's kind of got like a funny wrap. So this will tell us who this it's assigned to, whether or not it's billable, and this is the contact for the company. The staff, which was Robert, what Robert's role was. I think we have one for, I'll call him controller. And this payroll item would be if you're using payroll, Intuit's payroll, for this to go into QuickBooks.
If you're using a desktop version of Intuit Payroll.
And then this status comment is the deferred status. So, of course, we have QuickBooks class options, which we don't have any classes set up in this demo account. Down towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see the individual steps that you could modify, giving them more help. You would also see what steps might have been completed. So a good indication if it was deferred and they stopped working for the day, they might have gotten a portion of it done. Clicking to comments, you'll see the actual comments associated with this particular task. It would show you that here are the time tracking notes when it was deferred there, as well as any additional notes that might be put in by the staff person.
So the time, the time tracking.
And then,
the time tracking notes specifically would be here. We separate in Aero. We separate the time tracking notes, which will flow through to the timesheet and then possibly to the client facing documents like an invoice, from your internal comments, which are over here, which could be directions to your staff, or your staff member could, write something like, if I have to work on this client again, I'm going to quit, that sort of thing, where the time tracking notes are actually, they're auto-populated by these steps as people check them off, but then they can add to them once they're actually inside consuming the activity. And we covered that briefly over when we did the Managing Your Day webinar on Aero, which is recorded on the website.
Okay, and then as we continue on, over here, it would show you the actual hours. Oops, that's probably a better way to say it here. That actual hours would be a summation of all the time, all the time tracking hours, and will be summed here. But here, as a manager, you have the ability to add in what the estimated number of hours. So you're giving the staff member an indication, hey, that you're expecting this to take 2 hours. And then you can compare that to the actual hours. And then from here, if we change the rate, you'll see that that it actually calculates what the estimated revenue is here. So when we leave from this screen, and here again, if it's in progress, you'll just choose close. When we come back to this, I'm going to clear it so we can see some other data. I'll refresh this. Okay, so here, again, with the same idea of the estimated hours, we'll see the estimated amounts. That's the estimated hours, the actual hours that it takes to do that task. So here we can see one that has been worked on. So it should have, and you can see that it populated an overage. So here is estimated. It shows you the half an hour, then 3/4 of an hour was actually worked. And notice that we do have time tracking here. So, and you can clearly see 45 minutes to 3/4 of an hour. up here. So you can see how you're doing. It's deferred, whether it's over. So this is your excellent snapshot into is the work getting completed in a timely fashion. Okay, and other than down here at the bottom from this screen, we'll show you a couple of other little things. If you click Export, then it will download that grid to Excel. There's not Excel on this computer. So if you just click Download Excel, what it will do is export this particular grid, so you would have it in Excel if you needed to report on it. And then also you have the option of adding a new activity. So you'll just choose the client right here and add an activity, which is a little beyond the scope of this particular webinar, but wanted to show you that that's available here. So you can create another task. Hey, it's not getting done. Let's quickly add another one. So for the most part, those were the things we really wanted to show. Victoria, is there anything you'd like to add?
Do we have any questions? I think you kind of covered most of the points we wanted to on this screen. This screen was mostly designed to give you the ability to, once you've delegated the work and parsed it out, to kind of be able to track what's getting done and whether everybody's staying on task and whether your things are getting done in the amount of time you thought they would be. Does anybody have a question? We can either type them into the box or raise your hand and we can unmute you. Okay. I guess that means we were fairly thorough. So we designed this to be 30 minutes. Do you want to just spend, since we did zip through that pretty fast, Mark, kind of just briefly show how you would go and set up a new task from there and review that?
Sure. All right, so from here, if we wanted to add a new task, let's choose, because I had already selected this, what I had a task for. Adams Associates, and you can see that this screen is very much the same. So we'll just leave it as new activity. We'll just say that this is the default contact for Adams Associates. This task is going to be billable. It's assigned to Mark because that's who happens to be logged in right now. And we'll say that the role is going to be admin. And again, the same goes if you need payroll item and class. And we would schedule it. We could just say we'll schedule it for Friday at noon, and we can add an hour. We say it's going to take an hour and a half. I'll say hour and a half, and you can see that it's calculating here. And hours per month would be, if this is going to be recurring and you wanted to estimate that it was going to be, say, a 20-hour-a-month gig, that you could see quickly what the revenue is. Again, from a manager sales, you're managing your revenue there. So if we go in and we add this new task, and we'll say, call for support, you can see that it populates the first step down here for call for support. Now, I'm not going to go into the other details about setting these steps up, only that when you change this, it's going to populate the first one. But then you would go into setting the steps up. But if we click Save and Close, that would now be saved. And if we go over here and we check for the let's choose. Okay, so here, and then if I drill into Mark, because I think we set it up for Mark, we can see that here is the one we set up, call for support. It's scheduled for an hour and a half right here, and if I needed to deal with it a little more, I could just click into it and open it back up there. So I'd say that's kind of like a round wait, Victoria.
Yep. Yeah. I just wanted to add a couple things that from a CRM perspective and how it works with method. If we go back in and look at these, let's see, I don't think I have Mark's mouse anymore. So if you could click back into the activity, Mark. This activity,
you want to click back
yeah.
All right, so you should be able to have mouse now. Go ahead.
Okay. The activity name here, that's a sort of an Aero specific field, and that won't show up in the regular method or really any place outside of Aero. But these comments, you see we auto-filled, when we auto-filled the activity name, we also auto-filled the comments, and this does show up out in the regular CRM. And then this show on calendar, this particular type of activity is set to always show on the calendar. So this is not you don't have the choice because for a particular meeting, you would want that to show on your calendar so you didn't overschedule it, as opposed to just a sort of a general to-do item. You wouldn't necessarily want that to show on somebody's calendar.
Okay. We did have a question come in about how do you make the activity recurring, and what are the options for that? Well, okay. you make an activity recurring in the exact same way you do for regular method CRM. And what we're going to do is there are several things around creating recurring activities, and we're going to schedule an entire webinar just to deal with that. It's beyond the scope of the webinar we're doing today.
Yeah, so just real briefly, you would go down to this recurring dates and deal with it from there. And once you say, yes, it's recurring, you can see you have the options. But that's the quick and dirty headline. As Mark said, we could actually probably talk for an hour about recurring events and recurrences and the gotchas and the good, the bad, and the ugly about recurring activities. So we are hoping to get that done before the end of the year, probably in a couple weeks. I think we're shooting for the first week in December. One of the cool things about recurrences is this little is to be renewed box, but that has to be handled with kid gloves. So we just wanted to have a time to talk with everybody about how the best way to handle those were going forward, since we're coming up on the end of the year. And Method does have on their site, in their help documentation, some basic how to handle recurrences stuff that all applies to Aero, since we just, we're using their recurring tool. So let's get ourselves out of here before we can create a recurrence of this thing.
Okay, well, so it sounds like to me that we've covered any questions that we had and covered the topics that we wanted to cover. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today.